today.
The bottom line is that you think an FBI director without credibility would have been best served in this position to try to pursue this investigation.
I think if the president had fired him when he first came in, he would not have to be in a position now where he's trying to make up a story about why. It does not meet the smell test.
Yeah, something smells all right.
Understood. So if Hillary Clinton had won the White House, would you have recommended that she fire FBI Director James Comey?
Well, let me tell you something. If she had won the White House, I believe that given what he did to her and what he tried to do, she should have fired him.
So she should have fired him, but he shouldn't have fired him. This is why I'm confused.
No, you're not confused.
Yes, I am. Behind Enemy Lines.
Gene Baradelli, back behind Enemy Lines. I want to thank Gavin Clarkson for coming on the show. What a great interview that was. A lot of fun talking about the silliness that led up to his eventual nuptials. Congratulations on getting married and finally proving that New Mexico is a state. Good on you. And listen, now's as good a time as any to do some plugs and get some of the good and welfare out of the way. Thanks for listening to Behind Enemy Lines Radio. I'm Gene Bardelli. Russ Gallo isn't here, but we got some good news to talk about him later on as well. Check us out at www.behindenemylinesradio.us. Check us out on the Facebooks and the Twitters at BEL_radio. But if you miss any part of the show when we do our broadcast, you can always catch us on our rebroadcast outlets, including WJHC Talk 107.5 FM in Jasper, Florida, WDDQ 92.1 FM in Adel, Georgia, WLBB 1330 News Talk AM, all a part of the Talk America Radio Network, powered by ICRN, the Internet's conservative radio network. You can also catch us on KLRN Radio, Lone Star Talk Radio and Sackheads Media, Lanterns Radio at lanterns.buzz, and Eye to Eye Talk Radio, another one of our great affiliates that's up and coming, and our newest affiliate, Mojo 50. Check them out at mojo50.com. One of these days I'm going to get the Brooklyn out of my mouth and be able to talk properly. Mojo50.com. Doc Thompson and Ron Phillips and Matt Locke and all our friends over there are doing such a great job. But if you miss any of the rebroadcasts, don't worry, it's cool. We got you covered. We're also available as a podcast pretty much everywhere, but including Stitcher, Spreaker, Podbay, Player FM, TuneIn, Google Play Music, SoundCloud, Auto Radio, iTunes, and of course the mighty iHeartRadio Network. And of course, it's December, which means it's Buffoon of the Year time. I've mentioned it a couple times on the show already. I'm going to keep on mentioning it till you vote. One round a week until we crown a new buffoon on our first show of 2019. Check it out. And also, check out the official now Behind Enemy Lines store we just added. We added a nice Teespring store with some funny T-shirts, some comical stuff. Support the radio show as best you can. Take a look at some good stuff there, some funny stuff, and we hope you like it. If there's something that you want to see in the store, let us know, and we'll be happy to accommodate you. That's a project, by the way, with our friends at Less Government More Fun. Check them out at lessgovmorefun.com. All right, I think that's enough with the plugs and stuff. Let's get back to some news from the past week, the week that was. A lot of hubbub this week. Can I say hubbub on the air? Is that allowed? I think most people know it. I know our friends in Florida and Georgia probably know what hubbub is, and probably our friends in the People's Republic of New York do. For the rest of you out there, it means, goings on and doings in a more of a furious manner. Here I am mansplaining hubbub. Whatever. Some news from earlier in the week before the broadcast. The so-called Mueller briefs. Mueller dropped his briefs? No, not exactly. It's more about a legal argument that's being set forth in connection with a report concerning Michael Cohen and what he may or may not have said to prosecutors investigating Russian interference in the 2016 election. Yes, we're still talking about this. Now, I'm not one to explain legal briefs better than other preeminent attorneys out there. I have my own definite opinion, and it just so happens that my opinions mesh with the preeminent Harvard professor and practitioner of over 50 years in the legal field, Professor Alan Dershowitz. Now, I know what you're saying, he's liberal, but he's consistently liberal. He's classically liberal. He has been a defender of in the criminal justice system on the highest of levels for decades. So, me being a civil litigator, I don't know much about criminal practice. I don't have too many criminal clients, knock on wood. So when I turn to things that I don't know, I look at what experts are saying. And Alan Dershowitz, to me, is probably the foremost expert when it comes to issues such as this, I should say. And Professor Dershowitz is been very plain and very clear in what he's saying. He doesn't see any specific violation of federal criminal statute, unless, of course, a prosecutor wants to stretch certain laws that are more nebulous and more vague than you actually think they would be, such as obstruction of justice, and stretch them beyond all sorts of legal recognition. What do we mean by that? Obstruction of justice is one of those crimes where while it's maybe codified and there are elements to it, you kind of know it when you see it. It's one of those catch-alls that prosecutors like to use to get someone into trouble for something that may be not as great as you may think it is. And in this case, Professor Dershowitz is saying that the prosecutorial indiscretion going on here, or maybe the abuse of discretion, or the overstepping of bounds at the very least, is that the Mueller probe and investigation is starting to blur the lines between what is a crime and what Professor Dershowitz is calling a sin. And what's the difference? A crime is something with elements to be fulfilled as prescribed by a statute. It is something with definite things that have to happen and must be provable in order for someone to find on the face of the charges, prima facie, that a crime occurred. A sin is subjective. It's moralistic. It's not something that you can go to jail for, but it's probably frowned upon. It may be unethical. It may be immoral. It may be considered wrong to someone's sensibilities. But it's not a crime. It's not something you prosecute someone over. For instance, Russian collusion, however you may define that, is not a definition used in criminal law. In federal criminal law, there is no crime of collusion. That's a sin in somebody's eyes. So what exactly are we looking for here? We're looking for crimes. We're looking for proof that the Trump administration did some sort of wrongdoing in order to tip the scales in their favor for this election and skew the results. Well, we know the Russians did that, according to every report from every security agency and every investigation that's been going on thus far. In fact, Russians have been charged with this. In fact, Russians are the only ones who have been charged with interference in the elections. Let me just say that one more time. Only Russians have been charged with crimes in connection with the Mueller probe. Everyone else, all the stuff you hear about, all the people quote-unquote convicted or charged that every Democrat is crowing about, had nothing to do with Russian interference or collusion. They had to do with something that either happened before the campaign started or was conceived, like Paul Manafort and his tax evasion and bank fraud, which happened years before he joined the Trump campaign, or they're crimes that happened after the campaign, like George Papadopoulos lying to FBI officials. That's what he was charged with, folks. Or they have something that has nothing whatsoever to do with the campaign at all, like Michael Cohen being charged with something to do with taxi cabs. I don't even know what it is, to be perfectly honest with you, that the Mueller probe actually referred to local counsel in the People's Republic of New York City. So clearly it's outside the mandate of the Mueller investigation. So what can be charged against the Trump administration if you find evidence of it? An example that you can give is actually working with WikiLeaks in the hacking that WikiLeaks purportedly did or that Russia gave to them. If the campaign participated with WikiLeaks in the hacking itself and there was evidence to support that, now we're talking about a crime. In the 2 years that we've been looking into this, there's been no such connection. There's been no such evidence. Not even a scintilla, as they say in legal parlance. Not a crumb, not a shekel, not a thing that connects Russia, WikiLeaks, and Trump campaign acting in concert and working together. It's all supposition and circumstantial. And when you get into circumstantial evidence, folks, evidence that is not direct to what you want to prove, that's where you are left to read between the lines. And where else but in politics are you left with more room to read in between lines? That's what this is all about. This is becoming more political than anything else. Again, and think about this. We're talking about Trump campaign working with WikiLeaks in Russia in coordination and in concert to such a degree that there's no evidence of them working together, and this hacking was successful and it skewed the election. This is the same Donald Trump, ladies and gentlemen, that everybody wants you to think is a moron. They want you to think he's stupid. They want you to think that he couldn't find the White House bathroom with 2 hands and a flashlight. But yet he is this mastermind of a scheme that is devised to skew a national election involving a foreign power and an anonymous news source known for hacking. Are you kidding me? How does that fit into the narrative of Trump is dumb? It doesn't fit because there's no evidence of it. But let's go into other things that Trump could be accused of being a crime that's really a sin. Stormy Daniels. I know, you're laughing as I said that phrase. Stormy Daniels, she who sued Trump through Michael Avenatti and now owes him $293,000 in legal fees for an improper lawsuit and sanctions against her. Yeah, that's Stormy Daniels. The accusation there is that Cohen acted in coordination with and at the direction of President Trump to steer this money to Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal, who were claiming they had affairs with Trump, in order to keep that information coming out in the 2016 presidential election. Now, prosecutors would argue that this was meant to influence the election and thus a violation of campaign finance law. This is what Cohen said when he pled guilty. He pled guilty of violating campaign finance laws in relation to these payments. Now, it remains to be seen whether or not this is actually a crime or not, folks, because there's already precedent for this. For those of you who don't know the difference between precedent and statutes and customs and all this legal lingo, precedent would mean that there have been actions like this before and outcomes that can direct us to a similar outcome under similar facts. So in this case, let's see if we all remember a certain Democrat senator named John Edwards and the fact that he had redirected campaign contributions and money to further a lifestyle with a mistress, Rielle Hunter, while his wife was dying of cancer. Totally disgusting, absolutely immoral, against all forms of taste and class and beyond the dignity of the offices he was running for. He ran for vice president, he was running for senate again. All of that. Went before a court, went before a jury, was not a crime. As loathsome and disgusting as you may find that to your particular social justice palate, that's not a crime, quote unquote. A campaign finance violation? They happen all the time. I mean, President Obama had to pay $375,000 in fines for campaign finance violations and improper use of money. Those happen all the time, at every level. I remember when I ran for city council, the disclosures and the things I had to do back in 2009 to show that I didn't misuse money. No violations by me, mainly because I had no money. But that's besides the point. There were others out there who put up, signs improperly or spent money improperly or didn't have receipts for things, and they ended up getting fined. Whether or not this was contemplated as part of the campaign or whether this was something that was just as a matter of course done by then candidate Trump in his private dealings with people. Listen, I don't live in the guy's bedroom. I don't know who's in there from day to day and time to time. It's not for me to say, really. Voters had an opportunity to vote on this issue. They knew about it clearly when the voting happened. They knew about, comments that I would not support about where to grab women and his misogynistic ways that he allegedly has. And, he's been called everything from a misogynist to a racist to a bigot to ignorant to low class to every word under the sun by now. You know them all. And yet he still won anyway. And what I don't understand is how Democrats are still harping on this as being the reason why Donald Trump is president. Donald Trump's president because Hillary Clinton couldn't find the Midwest on a map. Donald Trump is president because Jill Stein blocked Hillary Clinton in a lot of states. I'll say it. And there were Democrats that refused to pull the lever or fill in the oval or punch the Chad for Hillary Clinton. Didn't want to do it for Donald Trump, but it left a plurality of votes for him to win. That's why he won. Had nothing to do with the hundreds of thousands of dollars on Facebook that were vaguely influential, if I would say negligibly influential. I mean, yes, there were attempts by the Russians to, infiltrate campaigns and boards of elections, but that's no different than any other year. Those of us who know about election law and campaigns know that this is a regular occurrence. There is nothing new under the sun about Russia trying to influence our elections. Heck, We tried to influence elections in Great Britain for Brexit.